This video premiered during Tekken 101's charity livestream to benefit important medical research to fight leukemia. I will link the stream in the description if you'd like to support this worthy cause, and please show Tekken some love for all the hard work he did to make this happen. What is up everybody, it's Animac here for AnimeUproar, and in this video I will be talking about my favorite anime character of all time. Someone who I see not only as a cool fictional character, but also as an inspiration to me in my everyday life. I mean, even my YouTube name, which is Animac with a K, was derived simply by taking the name of my favorite anime character, Kamina, and reversing the letters. Yeah, think about it, I'll give you a minute. Anyway, everyone who knows me knows how much I love Kamina and Gurren Lagann, and how the philosophy behind the character of Kamina, the idea of always thinking outside the box and making the impossible possible, is the philosophy by which I strive to live my life. But with that said, I have to admit that I often come across people who don't have the same appreciation for Kamina's character, and believe it or not, Screw Attack actually placed Kamina at number 7 on their list of the top 10 dumbest anime characters. And yes, I know that Screw Attack is not any sort of reliable authority on anime, but that video still has over 6,000 likes and less than 500 dislikes. I mean, dear God, I cannot begin to tell you how much this irks me, and the only real explanation is that Kamina has to be one of the most misunderstood characters in anime. My good friend Nuxtaku actually gave me the idea for making this video because he knows how much it bugs me when someone criticizes Gurren Lagann and Kamina without bothering to consider the incredibly important philosophical aspects of the series. In fact, Nux likes to call me the triggered philosopher because I actually spent years studying political science and philosophy. And even though Gurren Lagann can be enjoyed as just a fun action shonen in a post-apocalyptic setting with a unique animation style, what I love the most about this series is the inspirational philosophical message that can be found just below the surface. And I sincerely hope that if you happen to be skeptical about Gurren Lagann, then in this video I will be able to show you what this anime and the character of Kamina look like through my eyes. And I hope I can give you an idea of why Kamina remains my absolute favorite fictional character, while Gurren Lagann remains my absolute favorite anime. Thank you in advance for your time and consideration, and now let's dive into it. In the very first episode of Gurren Lagann, our two protagonists, Simone and Kamina, are in a village that is literally in an underground cave. The village experiences frequent earthquakes which cause widespread structural damage, and Simone's parents were killed in one such earthquake when he was younger. Simone is a digger who digs in order to expand the village underground, and also in order to find hidden treasures. Kamina is his best friend and is a few years older, but the two of them are so close that Kamina considers Simone to be his brother in spirit. Kamina is a rebellious young man who leads the other youth of the village to try to climb up to the surface and leave the cave. Meanwhile, the village chief and many others don't even believe that there is a surface at all. They've never seen it, the cave is all they know, and when Kamina tells them that on the surface there is no ceiling so they won't have to worry so much about earthquakes, he is called a liar and a troublemaker. To me, this is one of the best setups for an anime ever, because what we have here is literally Plato's allegory of the cave in anime form. If you're not familiar with Plato's allegory of the cave, I will explain it briefly. Plato was an ancient Greek philosopher whose teacher Socrates was put to death by the government of Athens for allegedly corrupting the youth by teaching them about views and philosophies that were contrary to the accepted beliefs of their society. Just like Kamina, Socrates wanted the youth to look beyond the conventional wisdom established by society, and for this he was called a liar and a troublemaker. In his famous book, The Republic, Plato wants to explain how philosophers, people who think outside the box and question conventional wisdom, differ from other people. In order to do this, Plato gives us an allegory in which a group of people have been chained to the wall of a cave their entire lives, and they are chained in such a way that they are always facing the same blank wall. There is a fire burning behind them that they can't see, and the light that the fire creates projects shadows on the wall. The shadows are all that these people know. It is their entire world, their reality. This is all they've ever known, so they accept it as the only reality because they just don't know any better. The philosopher is like a prisoner who manages to free himself from the chains and is able to stand up and see what's really happening. He comes to understand that the shadows on the wall are not reality, just illusions, projections, and eventually he is able to climb up and leave the cave to see what the surface really looks like, the trees, the sky, the sun, and so on. The philosopher realizes that everything that he has been seeing inside the cave up to this point was just a pale reflection of the real truth, a tiny fraction of a much greater reality. The philosopher then walks back into the cave and tries to tell the people inside the cave who are still tied up in the same place that they are just watching shadows on a wall, not the real world. But the people who are stuck in the cave don't believe him because he is challenging everything they think they know. In fact, they call him a liar and they want to kill him, just like the citizens of Athens killed Socrates because they don't want their worldview to be challenged. They don't want to believe that there is a surface at all, a world beyond the cave, because that would mean that everything they've ever believed for their entire lives has been a lie. In general, people want to be comfortable inside the perceived reality that they have constructed for themselves. They want a safe space inside the cave. People don't want their entire reality to be challenged. They don't want to question all of their pre-existing values and beliefs. It is so much easier to ignore uncomfortable questions and dismiss criticism than it is to second guess everything we know, but that is exactly what the philosopher does. He questions, critiques, and pushes the boundaries of our comfort zone. And here is the important point. Kamina is Plato's philosopher. Kamina is a visionary who knows that there is a surface, a world beyond the cave. The others don't believe him. They are trapped in their own preconceived notions until a giant mecha falls through the ceiling of the cave, revealing the surface. When this finally happens, Kamina is ready, and he inspires Simone to fight back against the giant mecha using a small mecha that Simone found by accident during one of his digs. Together with Yoko, a girl from the surface who was fighting the giant mecha as well, they defeat the mecha and leave the village for the surface. The surface is full of these giant mecha known as gunmen, and at first Simone wants to return to the village, to the cave, because he is scared of this new, dangerous world. But Kamina refuses to go back, and he forces Simone to stand and fight against all odds. He forces Simone to reject common sense and make the impossible possible. Kamina never retreats, never yields, never looks back, and together they discover that the giant mecha are piloted by beastmen, animalistic creatures with human-like intelligence, and there are also other people on the surface fighting against these beastmen. When they defeat one of these mechas, Kamina decides to hijack it and pilot it for himself, something that never even occurred to the humans on the surface. But Kamina is the visionary, the philosopher. He breaks through the paradigm. He keeps moving forward, seeing what the others cannot see. And this is what inspires the other humans on the surface to follow his example, to hijack other gunmen and to form a human resistance force against the beastmen. In order to emphasize again the importance of all of this and of Plato's allegory of the cave, in episode 5, Simone, Kamina, and the others who now follow them on their quest to defeat the beastmen stumble into another underground village by accident. In this village called Adai, the gunmen mecha are worshipped like gods, and when Kamina tells them that the gunmen are not gods but merely mechas piloted by beastmen, they get upset because he is challenging their long-held beliefs. Again, Kamina plays the role of the philosopher. He searches for the truth and for justice, and he cannot understand that there are people out there who are willing to live a lie just because it's easier than accepting the truth. Kamina even says that he would rather die than live this way. He always looks outside the box, outside the cave. He is a leader and a visionary, and his behavior can appear completely irrational to others because he rushes in headfirst into battles and believes that his manly spirit and willpower is all he needs to destroy any enemy. Kamina is an idealist, someone who always looks forward and yearns for truth and justice, someone who is never satisfied with the status quo. Some have said that Kamina is just crazy and reckless, or dumb to use Screw Attack's terminology, freaking Screw Attack. But to be fair, the list of people who think this about Kamina includes not only some viewers of the anime, but also many of the characters in the actual show. However, rather than being crazy or dumb, Kamina is exactly the type of person humanity needs in that moment in time. In the horribly bleak and dangerous situation that humans find themselves in within the caves and on the surface, common sense is not enough. Being reasonable and practical is not enough. If we think about the situation in terms of common sense, it's clear that the beastmen are way more powerful at the beginning of the series, and a practical person in that moment in time will conclude that the beastmen will inevitably win and that resistance is therefore futile. I mean, the Beastmen have superior numbers, superior weaponry, superior intel, superior everything. But Kamina takes it upon himself to be the symbol and the pillar of hope for others. He refuses to accept the so-called inevitable, he thinks outside the box, and by seeing his example and following it, the other humans on the surface become hopeful and confident that they can actually make a difference and fight back against the enemy. Kamina is a true visionary leader, exactly the type of leader humanity needs at that point, which is why the others follow him. Even though he might seem crazy to some, we have to remember that geniuses often do. For example, Nikola Tesla was called crazy when in the late 1800s he advocated for alternating current as superior to the more established direct current that was being pushed by Thomas Edison. In the end, alternating current won, and we all use it to power our homes today. Steve Jobs was also called crazy for thinking that everyone will one day own a personal computer in their homes, way back when computers were the size of an entire room. And I think we all know how that turned out. And just like these visionaries from our own world, Kamina was called crazy for wanting to leave the cave and for wanting to fight against seemingly impossible odds. And yet he inspired and mobilized so many others, and because of him they were able to do the impossible. Kamina's brilliant leadership and philosophy creates a chain reaction, and no matter what happens to him in the end, his ideas continue to live on forever. So it should go without saying that Kamina is not a dumb character. On the contrary, he is a visionary character. Kamina inspires us to think beyond what society says is possible and to see what others can't see because they refuse to look in this completely new direction. He inspires us to leave the cave and to achieve the impossible, or at least what others think is impossible because they don't know any better. All they know are shadows on the wall of the cave, but just because they believe that something is impossible doesn't mean that you have to accept it. Just because they tell you that your hopes and dreams are unrealistic doesn't mean that they actually are. This is what Kamina teaches us, and I do my very best to make Kamina's philosophy and outlook on life my personal philosophy and my outlook on life. Even the fact that I made this video and that I'm speaking to you right now is due in part to this philosophy that I learned from Kamina and Gurren Lagann. I first saw Gurren Lagann back in 2010, long before I ever considered doing YouTube. In the years that followed, I went through grad school, spent many years studying political science and philosophy until I finally earned a PhD in political philosophy. However, after putting all of that hard work into attaining the highest possible level of formal education, I quickly realized that society didn't actually care about my degree. I applied to over 100 academic jobs and administrative jobs over the course of a year, and I didn't receive a single call back for an interview. It was a major low point in my life because I felt that I wasted years of my life working hard to achieve something that in the end wasn't worth anything to anyone. If I didn't have Kamina's idealistic and uplifting philosophy, if I didn't have the capacity to think outside the box and defy conventional wisdom, I would probably still be desperately searching for some academic job that may never come. But thanks to the fact that my brother and I loved anime, including Gurren Lagann, we decided to try doing something completely out of left field. We decided to try making anime videos on YouTube, something that doesn't require any academic degree, and something that our parents and other family members thought was a complete waste of time. With so many people uploading videos to YouTube every single day, what were the chances that our videos would gain traction and that we would ever be able to make a living by talking about Japanese cartoons on the internet? And yet, here we are. My brother Gozen and I were able to do exactly that with our channel AnimeUproar. And to be honest, the academic degrees that we both have do actually come in handy because in university we learn to do research, write argumentative papers, explain our points effectively, etc. And all of these qualities are extremely useful for the types of YouTube videos that we make. But if I didn't understand the character of Kamina and the true message of Gurren Lagann, who knows? Maybe I wouldn't have had the courage to throw logic to the curb and try something completely different. Maybe I would still be stuck inside the cave, looking for the kind of conventional jobs that were directly related to my degree, something that my parents and others around me would consider the logical thing to do. But thanks to Kamina, whenever someone tells me and my brother that our goals and dreams are impossible, that we should be more realistic, that we should just stick to what we know, I know exactly what to tell them in return.
Just who in the hell do you think we are?
If you guys enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like to let me know. And if you're new to AnimeUproar, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell. Feel free to hit me up on Twitter and Instagram at AnimeUproar if you don't want to talk about Kamina or Gurren Lagann. I am always down for that. Just a quick note, an earlier draft of the script for this video was published as part of a longer video I made over a year ago about 5 anime that I found inspiring, including Gurren Lagann. But I wasn't happy with the sound quality and other aspects of that video, so I'm extremely grateful to Nux for encouraging me to rework this concept into a video of its own. As always, thank you guys so much for watching, it means a lot to me, and until next time, see ya, Space Cowboys.